We are joined by driver of the number 72 Everett's Auto Parts car, the Pro All-Star Series super late model driver, and also former ACT Tour driver as well. 2022, he ran the Pass Series. We are joined by Ryan Kuhn. Ryan, welcome to the show.
How are you guys?
Good. So jump right into our In the Turn interview. First question, always out of the gate that we like to ask is, how'd you catch the racing bug?
Oh, man. My dad's been racing for years, and honestly, when I was young, I didn't really have much interest in racing. I was more of like a baseball-type kid, and then drove my first go-kart first time ever, and I'm like, yep, that's it. So caught the bug there. My dad ran modifieds. My grandfather raced earlier, too, in his life, and but he retired very early. So, but caught the bug from my old man, watched him run modifieds for years, and yeah, that's how I caught the bug.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, your grandfather, maybe not racing too much, but on the back end of things, he's quite the setup man. Talk to us a little bit about his experience and his work helping the local racers.
Yeah, I mean, my dad has been super good to, really everybody. He's been doing a lot of setups for drivers at Seekonk, for their cars and other stuff like that, and won a ton of races, especially with like Mike Brightman and a bunch of guys in the pro stocks, late models, and even the truck division. But he's had a lot of success there. He's been, helping out a bunch of other people and now selling parts now, which is really, really good.
Talk to us a little bit about, your start, how you've kind of gotten going, and, what it's been like racing. You've been around the last couple of years with some great sponsorship and some great help from Everett's Auto Parts as well.
Yeah, I mean it's been a great career so far, and I'm looking forward to continue it. I really started with my dad pushing me in the go-karts. We always ran go-karts together. I was a timid little kid, and started really pushing me around in those go-karts when I was young, about 10 years old, and I figured out how to get aggressive pretty early, pretty quickly, and that was really the main push. And then we went from like the F1 Boston go-karts to champ karts. Won a lot in those, won a lot of championships, went to legend cars. Unfortunately, never won a track title, but we did win a Triple Crown title. Won a bunch of races, moved up to late models in, I think it was 2017, end of 2016, and we got our first late model. That was also the year we also got Everett's Auto Parts, which was absolutely a dream come true, honestly. They've been such a huge help. Roy at Everett's has been such huge help for us. He actually approached us at the banquet that 2016 season for the Friday night divisions, and he's basically said, "I want you to drive for me." I'm like that. I was quite shocked, and it made me feel really, really good. I'm like, man, this is probably the biggest opportunity I've ever had in my life, and I felt like I made the most of it. We won a lot. We won a lot of races in the late model. Won a championship in 2018 at Seekonk. Ended up moving to the ACT Tour in 19. I don't think we ever won an ACT race. We did not. Won Rookie of the Year in 19, and had a pretty good 2020 season. And then obviously 2022 we got the Pro All-Star Series championship, which was huge because we didn't think we were going to run the full schedule to start the season. And man, we got it.
Yeah, so talk about early on when you made the jumps from legends to late models to pro stock to super late models. Talk about the progression of that, because we got people who listen a lot and they're in legend cars and they want to move up, they just don't know how.
Yeah, I mean, moving up it's honestly not a huge step from legends to late models, to be honest with you, because from the legend standpoint, I think there's just a little less competition, and then you move up to the late model standpoint, you got guys, a lot of older guys, competition-wise is a lot better, a lot of guys with more experience, setup knowledge, stuff like that, and I felt like that was the biggest learning curve. I'm like, okay, I got to start learning these cars, I got to start learning what adjustment does what in these cars. And I think another huge factor played in that was iRacing. I learned a lot of setup work from the iRacing.
Another iRacing guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody talks about iRacing.
Such a good simulator. It helps big time.
Do you still use iRacing today? Like when you go, if you've never been to a place, you try to load it up and see which laps you can get in.
Oh yeah. I use iRacing every day, every night. I actually own a business through iRacing, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, we went to Oxford the first time ever in a Legend car, and we went there, and my old man told people, he's like, he's never seen the place, but he has 10,000 laps here. How the hell is that possible? iRacing.
Do you got one of those setups with all the screens all around you and everything?
No, I actually just run single monitor.
Oh, really?
I run single monitor and a cheap G27 wheel, which is about, I don't know, 16 years old.
So you mentioned Oxford. I was up there for the 250 this year, and I remember watching you battle your way from front to back to front all night. Talk to us a little bit about the Oxford 250 from this past year and running that track.
Yeah, the 250 this year, honestly, I think was a little bit of a struggle for us. We had our high points, our really high points, and then it just fell absolutely to the bottom. Well, it started off at the bottom. The draw sucked. The draw was just terrible. We drew up back. Had to really work for it. Ran the Consi, had to make it through the Consi, and then actually, did we run the Consi? Yeah, I think we did run the Consi. Started out back. I think it was 33rd we started, and we were just probably the worst pit stall we could have had. We had a really good run, charged through the field after we put on our first set of right sides, and then it all went downhill from there. We pitted for 4 tires, and I kind of could not see my pit stall and missed the pit stall. Had to restart 22nd. Ended up finishing 11th, which was really good considering. Wish for better. I definitely think we had a top 3 car at the end of that race, but we tried.
So you also, this past year, another local short track that's a big name is Hickory. Talk to us a little bit about running at Hickory this past spring.
Yeah, Hickory's just such a fun place to run. You know, there's a lot of history, especially with the Easter Bunny. Now we do the double headers now, which I think's even better. But the problem with this year was it was all in one day, which kind of was rough, but it was worth it at the end of the day. We finished 3rd the first day. It felt like we had a shot really at the win on the final restart. But honestly, the history of that place is just, second to none. It's just so many names in the NASCAR world have come from there. So, it's just an honor just to even race there.
What would you say is like the biggest win or like most impactful moment? Doesn't have to be a win. Something that really said, all right, maybe I can do this for a long time.
Easily the Seekonk win we got in 2022, the Bay State Classic. That was a time I kind of, just my confidence level was a little bit low. We didn't win in 21. Came so close a bunch of times in 2021, just never could break it. 2022, we came out. We had really, really good runs, really strong cars. Felt like we should have won a few. I'm like, man, we got to get this. Seekonk came around. Everything played perfect. We were in, this was also the time where we lost Tom Scully Sr. We were in Tom Scully Jr.'s pit stall. We drew number 1, started on the pole, won the heat race, started on the pole in the feature, led, I think, all but 6 or 7 laps after a missed shift, came back, won the race. I'm like, man, cards played perfect. And I couldn't tell you how excited I was. There's actually a video on YouTube of that race. And after I crossed the start-finish line, you could hear my reaction in that video. And you could hear it over the motor. It's crazy.
You said Bay State Classic. I'm looking this up later.
Yeah, Bay State Classic. It's actually on my YouTube channel. We haven't posted in a while. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
So talk to us, because... Again, not many local tracks here. You're an East Bridgewater guy. I'm from East Bridgewater. Seekonk's kind of our home track, more or less. Talk to us about running at Seekonk and just what Seekonk kind of means to you.
Yeah, Seekonk means a lot. It's always going to be my home. It's really going to be my home away from home. They put on some incredible races there, and especially now they have the playoff system, which honestly I kind of questioned it when they first came out with it, but I kind of look more into it, and it does grow on you. It grew on me. I'm like, all right, this is a cool format. I mean, it's tough for the drivers. Some of the drivers don't really like it, but I'm like, man, dude, from a fan's perspective, I would love this. Absolutely love this. Perfect. It's a perfect system. I mean, could it be better? Yes, absolutely. But I mean, is it working the way it is right now? I think it is, and hopefully they'll get some new cars next year and kind of add some more. Yeah.
I just want to say something about what you just said. As a fan sitting there, when they do the playoffs, if your driver's not in the playoffs, it forces you to pick one. So all the fans kind of get invested in new teams. I think it's kind of cool myself. Talking about Seekonk, I always found Seekonk was like, if you could run Seekonk, you could run most places, and there's always like similarities in all these other tracks similar to Seekonk. I mean, is that what you think too? Because I mean, Oxford Plains to me is just like Seekonk.
Yeah, I mean, it depends really. I mean, Oxford I think is such a different. In my opinion, for some people have different opinions, but I think Oxford's really a completely different track. I mean, it kind of drives similar, yeah, but like
it's a lot rougher when you're
yeah.
tired.
So, like setup wise, you get it's a completely different animal. I honestly think the closest track to Seekonk could be like Spud Speedway way up in Maine. 3 and 4 is a little different, but 1 and 2 is pretty close. And we actually, I think we ran the exact same setup at both places, and it worked.
Talk to us a little bit for somebody who at home knows racing to a T, but doesn't know different setups and whatnot. You've got the setup shop. What goes into setting up a car for these different racetracks?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much knowledge you have to know nowadays. Now it's a lot tougher than it used to be because, you know, everyone's been doing it for, I don't know, a long time. You know, you got to know what bump packages to go with, what spring rates you got to go with, you know, what gear ratio you got to go with, and even it comes down to tires sometimes, what stagger you need, air pressure you need, and, you know, not every track we run the same air pressure, same spring, same shock, but different bumps package and all that stuff like that. But it's tough to know, especially if you're traveling. But for like a local track standpoint, it's a lot easier just because you're at one track. You might have to adjust, you know, a little bit of crossweight here, sway bar here to adjust for different weather, different track conditions, whatever like that. But that's kind of where that sits, is just right there.
Right there.
Is like the knowledge that you garner of the setups, does that come naturally just being around the car, being into racing, or do you actively go and seek out like, hey, I want to know more about the car because I don't currently, and you go out and like study?
It kind of runs both ways, you know. My dad's taught me so much between that, and then between him and between the iRacing standpoint too. You can learn a lot from the iRacing stuff. You know, you can change sway bars, change shocks, change springs, change rebound stiffness, compression, steering ratio, ballast. I mean, there's so much to it. So between those two, yeah, it was pretty much that.
Talk to us a little bit about, you know, again, we've touched on recent stuff, but let's go back a couple of years. You know, you were Seekonk track champion. What do you remember about the 19 season, winning that? Any memories, anything that really sticks out to you from that season?
Yeah, there was one time I think we went 3 in a row one time, and that was pretty cool. I'm like, dude, earlier this year, I never would have expected that. I knew we were going to come out swinging that year. We had figured something out at the end of that I think it was 2017 season. We figured something out. Went to 2018. I said, we're winning this championship. I don't care what anyone says. We're winning this championship. I think we had a bunch of rainouts. We ran 10 races. We won 4 of the 10. I think we only had one finish outside the top 10. I'm like, dude, we came out. I told you we were coming out swinging. We did.
Mother Nature certainly.
She was swinging.
Certainly not. It sounds like it that year, but this past season too, Mother Nature was no friend to race cars. So
nope.
You got a follow up there?
So how much time do you spend a week working on your cars when it's race season?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. You know, it depends. Like, you know, I got to work. I work for my uncle sometimes, so I mean, I do work with him, and then usually during the day, I'll go out if I'm not working with my uncle, work with my old man a little bit, and then some days I'll take off here and there. I mean, sometimes could be 8 hours a day, could be 4 hours a day, could be 12 hours a day. You don't know. You know, my old man's out there every day, all day, every day. He's out there working, putting in the time, and he is probably the hardest worker I've ever met in my life. My old man. So
we've got a great producer. We call him our crew chief. Tim has the Bay State clip dialed up, and I think we want to listen to this with everybody in studio here.
Oh, boy. Oh, yeah.
That's allowed to be over the engine.
Hey,
Wow, yeah.
is that from outside or inside? It's pretty good.
That is 100% from the inside. Oh yeah.
So going forward, this season, it's the off season.
We need Cup drivers to be this excited
I
after
think you
winning.
could tell I was excited.
We need more of this energy.
That was a time I haven't won in 2 years, and that was a huge race for us. It was a $10,000 to win pass race, run against some of the best drivers in the Northeast. To win against those guys is huge, and especially to have really a Seekonk crew 1, 2, 3 in that race with me, Dave Darling, and Jake Johnson was a huge deal for especially the Seekonk area. Yeah.
Doing some donuts.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you mentioned a couple of the local guys. Who are some of the local guys you've leaned on, relied on, and look up to?
I mean, really, mainly my old man. Back when he wasn't really running Seekonk when I was alive, but I've tried to take a lot of info from him. I watched, Jerry DeGasperi growing up, even Dave Darling growing up. And, a lot of them guys, just, you kind of watch them. It's like, man, I could be racing with these guys someday. And now we are. So, but that was me when I was a young kid. I was like, man, I'm going to race against these guys someday.
And how about some of the guys we see on TV on Saturdays and Sundays? Anybody you look up to there?
Oh, yeah. I used to watch NASCAR, especially when it was like, when Tony Stewart was in the 20. He was my favorite driver for the longest time. And then I kind of switched a little bit. I'm like, all right. It's Dale Jr. Let's see how he's doing. He did pretty good, and then I liked when Kyle Larson came into the sport. I liked him for a long time, and still like him a lot. He's had a lot of success, and I've really watched him since the start of his NASCAR career and kept close eyes on him. And the success he has now is incredible. I mean, a Cup championship, and should have had 2. I wish he won this year, but. Blaney did really, really good, and he deserved the championship 100%.
What do you see next for you? Is there a step after late models? Is there something that you see yourself doing in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to go ARCA racing, really. I mean, ARCA trucks. I mean, that's something I've dreamt about since I was a young kid. But that's something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to race on Sundays, really. I mean,
that's the goal.
Yeah, it's the goal, but it's so tough nowadays. Now it's just it's a lot of stuff's relied on funding, and it's a lot harder than it used to be. I feel like everything's just getting so much more expensive nowadays, and it's a lot harder now. But we're trying. I'm working at it. I'm trying to put some deals together, some sponsorship proposals together, and see if we can come up with a couple of races in the next couple of years.
What's on the schedule for 2024 right now, if anything?
Yeah, right now we have a majority, some pass races. We're going to run Hickory, we're going to run New Hampshire, we're going to try to run Thompson a few times. What else are we going to run? Obviously Oxford shows. We're going to run some Oxford shows, hopefully like 3 or 4 Oxford shows. We're going to run the Seekonk pass race, maybe some more Seekonk weekly shows, maybe 2 or 3 of those here or there. Hopefully some act races. I'd like to get back to running some more act races. I miss running that series. Chris Machad and them put on a great series. Tom Mayberry and them at Pass put on a really great series. And even Mike Parks at Granite State, they all put on really great series. And probably going to run all 3 this year. We're going to run the Lee 30K to win race this year or next year. Yeah, that's what it's looking like right now. I'd always like to run, the Snowball Derby, Snowflake 100. I've been trying the last 3-4 years, just couldn't work it out, and hopefully 2024 is the year.
There we go.
Yeah, you got to just keep working on it. I mean, you definitely have the talent, so just keep working at that stuff. But so what do you want to get out of next year? Because you're not going to be committed to one full series, so it's not a championship. It's just
I mean, next year is about having fun. I just want to go out and have fun, especially up here in the Northeast. We won that 2022 Pass Championship, and it kind of took a toll on everybody. It's like, man, we can't do that again.
Oh, man.
Unless we have more help. It's kind of
it's got to be so much work to win that.
Oh, it was unbelievable amounts of work. My old man was sacrificing, not making money, and myself not making money, to really get that past championship. And it all paid off at the end. It was really, really good. And honestly, I couldn't thank Roy from Everett's enough for letting us do it. I mean, at the beginning of the year, it's like, yeah, we're going to run like, I don't know, put like 7-8 races together. And then we came out of Oxford. I think we were second in points. I'm like, man, we got a shot at this.
Oh,
and
it's the hook.
Yep, it was the hook. And then after that, I don't think we finished outside the top 10 for the last, 12, 13 races. And I'm like, all right, got this.
So, final question for you, and there's obviously going to be a return show at some point. Invite's always open here. But sponsors, people who help pay the bills, who do you want to thank for, racing this past season?
Yeah, first off, Everett's Auto Parts. They've been a huge help for me since 2017 and really the start of my full body stock car career. Peter Bernier from Bernier's Liquors, Franny from Modern Auto Body, Coastal Heritage Bank, RKM Setup Shop, Bill's Tire Barn, 01 Designs, and everyone else who's really supported me down the road, all my fans, and my dad especially, all the sacrifices, that he's made to put me in a really good position. It's been one heck of a ride so far.
Ryan Kuhn, driver of the number 72 Everett's Auto Parts late model, joining us here for our In the Turn interview this week, sponsored by R&H Fitness Club in East Bridgewater.